The obsidian walls of the crystalline Concord's war chamber pulsed with a low thrum of energy, reflecting the anxieties etched across the faces of the assembled council. At the center of the vast space, a holographic projection flickered, displaying the crude, erratic movements of the newly discovered species. Homo sapiens, a species the Concord had initially dismissed as a negligible anomaly. But the anomaly had become a threat, a question mark, a source of gnawing unease that had permeated the crystalline heart of their civilization. The war room itself was a masterpiece of architectural understatement, a dome of precisely cut crystals that hummed with a silent, almost sentient energy. The council members, their forms a kaleidoscope of iridescent colors and varying crystalline structures, sat in silent deliberation, their thoughts a cacophony of fear, speculation, and the creeping dread of the unknown. The holographic image of the humans continued to shift and distort, a constant reminder of the unpredictable variable they represented. The lead speaker, her crystalline form shimmering with an agitated azure light, finally broke the suffocating silence. "Their technology is rudimentary," she began, her voice a resonating chime that echoed through the chamber. "Their vessels are slow, their weaponry primitive, yet their trajectory, their intent remain indecipherable. We have poured data streams and analysis into their activity, but they remain, at best, a complex question with no definitive answer. They move through the cosmos like a silent predator, their motivations shrouded in an impenetrable haze. They have not asked for contact. They have not issued threats. They simply are, and the very essence of their existence disrupts our long-held certainties." A crimson-hued counselor, his crystalline structure displaying a pattern of agitated tremors, snorted. "Rudimentary, perhaps, but they have managed to breach the interstellar exclusion zone, a feat that would require considerable resources, however primitive. They are encroaching on the trade routes, their ships are now within range of our systems, and their continued silence is both an insult and a clear message to all members of the Council." He paused, a visible pulse of crimson light flaring across his form. "I say we prepare for conflict. We can eliminate them swiftly." "Impulsive," the lead speaker chided, her voice calm and measured, a stark contrast to the escalating tension in the chamber. "A preemptive strike would ignite a war of unforeseen consequences. We know nothing of their capabilities. For all we know, what we perceive as primitive is merely a mask, a deliberate deception. Their silence, their calculated actions, they are not random. They are calculated." She tilted her crystalline head, her internal processor calculating probabilities, considering the countless scenarios that played out in the infinite expanse of the cosmos. "We must understand them before we act. The price of miscalculation is far too high." The debate raged for hours, a tapestry of fear and speculation woven through the crystalline walls of the war chamber. The holographic projection continued to display the human ships, their forms crude and utilitarian, yet their silent advance was a constant, unnerving reminder of the unknown threat they posed. Some counselors argued for immediate annihilation, driven by a primal fear of the unknown. Others, more cautious, advocated for observation, diplomacy, and the painstaking process of deciphering the motives of the silent species. The air grew thick with the weight of unanswered questions, of unresolved fears. No one on the council could shake off the cold, hard realization that the humans were the most unknown quantity to appear in space in centuries, and nobody knew what would come next. The lead speaker, however, remained resolute, her form radiating a calming, almost ethereal blue light. She had spent countless cycles studying the data streams, analyzing the humans' limited yet impactful actions. Something about the way they navigated the cosmos, the silent, purposeful trajectory of their ships, triggered an instinctual caution, a sense that there was far more to this species than met the eye. "We must learn their language," she declared, her voice echoing in the chamber. "We must understand their motivations. We cannot afford to make a mistake." A low murmur rippled through the council. Learning their language was no easy feat. Years, perhaps decades, of painstaking study, analysis, and interpretation. Even if the effort was successful, there was no guarantee they would respond. No guarantee that this silent species could be reasoned with. "We have initiated Project Babel," announced a counselor with a shifting emerald hue. "We are compiling all the intercepted communications, the data streams, everything. Even if they are unable to understand us, the mere act of analyzing their words is an important step. Perhaps, with the information we've gathered, we could begin translating and understanding their communications." "And what if they are simply animals? another counselor rasped, his voice a gravelly rumble. Animals do not reason, animals do not negotiate. They react, they strike, they consume. Is it possible that we are wasting our time on a species of no significance? That is what we have been told, the lead speaker replied, her voice resonating with conviction. But I cannot shake the feeling that there is more to them than that. Their behavior, their technological choices, everything about them suggest a level of control that exceeds pure animal instinct. They are calculating. And as the old saying goes, silence is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of strength. The hours stretched on, the debate cycling, growing more heated, more personal. The fear that had been simmering just below the surface of the council's proceedings now began to rise, to spill over. No one in the chamber could shake the feeling that the humans were in control, that the silence of the human species was not a flaw but a carefully calculated strategy that could potentially shape the fate of the conquered. They were walking a tightrope, and the balance could swing either way. They could be crushed or they could emerge in peace, but the choice lay in their actions. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the lead speaker announced a decision. We will send a diplomatic vessel, cloaked and unarmed, to establish contact. We will make them a simple offer of trade and peaceful cooperation. We have the data, we have the means. It is the only way. A wave of dissent rippled through the council. Many feared the risk, but the lead speaker's determination, the undeniable logic of her position, finally swayed the majority. The order was given. The diplomatic vessel, a sleek crystalline craft designed to blend seamlessly with the interstellar background, would commence its journey. Its mission, to find the humans and break their silence. As the vessel embarked on its perilous journey, a sense of grim anticipation settled over the war chamber. The fate of the conquered, perhaps the fate of the galaxy, hung in the balance, waiting on the actions of the silent species, the humans. They had believed humans were weak, but now a profound unease permeated the conquered. They were beginning to question everything. The diplomatic vessel, its crystalline structure shimmering in the vacuum of space, finally reached the designated coordinates. Scans revealed the human ships still crude and utilitarian, yet undeniably present. A message, a carefully constructed series of binary code, was transmitted. The vessel waited. Hours passed, then cycles, and then nothing. The silence persisted, a heavy shroud over the vastness of space. Despair began to creep into the minds of the crew, but they held firm to their orders. They sent a second transmission, a more elaborate offer of cooperation, of shared knowledge, of mutual benefit. They waited. Still nothing. Days melted into weeks, then months, and the diplomatic vessel became a silent sentinel in the void. Its mission, it seemed, was destined for failure. Back in the war chamber, the tension grew unbearable. The lead speaker, her form flickering with exhaustion, faced the unrelenting judgment of the council. Accusations flew. "We have failed," said one, "because we underestimated them." The lead speaker did not reply. The counselors were right. Their arrogance had blinded them. But the lead speaker was unwilling to concede defeat. She had analyzed the data, pored over every detail, searched for any anomaly, any clue that might explain the human silence. And then she found it. A minute shift in the electromagnetic spectrum, a subtle modulation in their communications that, when decoded, revealed a stunning truth. A series of signals, broadcast not to them, but to another location, far beyond the confines of their known galaxy. And it revealed that what they thought were primitive ships were, in reality, merely beacons. She announced this discovery to the council, and as she did, a tremor of disbelief ran through the chamber. The humans' true mission, their purpose, was revealed to them, not to the conquered. They were not attempting to interact, because they were communicating with an alien force beyond the scope of their perception. "They are not ignoring us," the lead speaker announced, her voice filled with a mixture of awe and fear. "They are simply not speaking to us. The humans aren't here for us, they are here for someone else." As the realization settled over the council, a new wave of fear washed over them. They were not the target. They were simply witnesses. The humans, the silent species, were engaged in a cosmic drama that transcended the limited scope of their own understanding. The lead speaker ordered a full-scale analysis of the alien signal. Days, then weeks, stretched into cycles as they attempted to decode the message. Finally, they succeeded. The message, a complex tapestry of mathematical equations, star charts, and abstract concepts, was an invitation. An invitation to a conference, a meeting of minds, a gathering of civilizations from across the galaxy. The implications were staggering. The humans were not a threat. They were the heralds. They were not weak. They were the ones pulling the strings. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. The diplomatic vessel was ordered to prepare for a new mission. This time, it would carry not a message of trade or cooperation, but a request to be included in the intergalactic conference. It was a gamble, a desperate attempt to stay relevant in a universe they were only beginning to understand. Finally, the day of the conference arrived. The diplomatic vessel, now accompanied by a small escort, jumped into hyperspace, heading towards the designated coordinates. The journey was long and arduous, the anticipation almost unbearable. They arrived at the conference site, a colossal structure of unknown origin, a monument to a civilization far beyond their comprehension. They were greeted by a delegation of humans. The humans stood tall, their expressions calm and unreadable. They showed no surprise, no emotion, just a quiet, almost unsettling composure. The lead speaker and her entourage were escorted into the conference chamber. Inside, they found themselves surrounded by representatives from countless alien species, each with their own unique appearance, their own unique perspective on the universe. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation, a sense of collective excitement and fear. The human representative stepped forward, his voice a calm, steady tone, filled with a deep timbre that resonated through the chamber. "Welcome," he said. "We are the human delegation. We are here to learn, we are here to grow, we are here to listen." And then the human representative presented the findings of the signal, the purpose of the conference, the reason for their silence. It wasn't about weakness or lack of power or intimidation. It was about security. The humans knew of a threat far greater than themselves, far greater than anything the conquered could imagine. The humans knew of an ancient entity, a cosmic force that sought to consume all life, all energy. An entity that thrived on chaos and conflict. It was an intergalactic threat, a force of destruction that was slowly, patiently making its way across the cosmos. And the humans had known about it for centuries. Their silence, their apparent lack of aggression, their slow, deliberate actions were not a sign of weakness. They were a sign of the most profound kind of strength. They were building defenses, spreading information, gathering allies. They were working to unify the galaxy, and they had been doing it in silence for eons. The humans were not the simple species they appeared to be. They had been watching, waiting, planning. They were not merely a new species on the galactic stage. They were a force of nature, a silent guardian, a silent sentinel that had been preparing for a war that would determine the fate of the cosmos. The presentation ended, and the conference chamber erupted in a cacophony of voices. Shock, disbelief, fear, and a grudging respect filled the air. The humans stood motionless, their faces unreadable, the embodiment of calm in the face of chaos. The lead speaker, her crystalline form radiating a newfound respect, stepped forward. We understand," she said, her voice filled with a mixture of awe and trepidation. "We will join you, we will help." The human representative gave a slight nod. "Then we begin." And as the humans started their work, preparing for the conflict to come, the aliens finally discovered why the humans stayed silent. The humans knew of a force that humanity had studied for centuries. Humanity knew the enemy, and only a silent approach could prevent the destruction of everything. The conquered and the rest of the galaxy had believed humans were weak and were about to destroy them, but in doing so, they had stumbled upon a truth that would change everything. The silence was not the absence of strength, but the essence of it. The war chamber, once a place of fear and uncertainty, now pulsed with a new energy, a new purpose. The holographic projection of the humans, once a symbol of the unknown, now represented a beacon of hope, a symbol of unity. The crystal walls, once silent observers of galactic politics, would now reflect the struggle to come, a testament to the quiet strength of the silent species and the universe they had sworn to protect. The conquered would have to face the long and difficult truth that they were not in control, and that they had to rely on a species they had underestimated for centuries. The diplomatic vessel returned to the conquered home world, carrying the message of unity, of shared purpose. The population was in an uproar, and many called for the immediate extermination of the species. Many questioned how the humans could be trusted, or if they would even be able to aid them in the war to come. There were also those that wanted to ally with the humans and began to question the actions of their own council. The political tensions reached a fever pitch, but the lead speaker, now a revered figure in their society, spoke from the dais. Her voice, calm and steady, cut through the noise, silencing the dissenters. "We have been wrong," she declared. For generations, we have approached the galaxy with arrogance, with a certainty in our own supremacy. We have sought dominance, not cooperation, and now we face a threat that will consume us all. The humans have seen what we could not, understood what we could not, and have chosen to act not with aggression, but with patience, with resolve, with silence. We underestimated them, not because they were weak, but because we were blind. We mistook their quiet for weakness. We confused their caution for fear. We failed to recognize the profound and elegant strength of their restraint. The lead speaker paused, her crystalline form shimmering with an inner light. They have offered us an opportunity to join them, to fight alongside them, to help preserve the very fabric of existence. It will not be easy. It will be a war fought on a scale beyond our comprehension. But it is a war we must fight together. We must embrace this alliance. The words were met with silence, and slowly a murmur of agreement rippled through the gathered crowd. The message had finally struck home. The people, after centuries of arrogant superiority, were finally beginning to understand. The humans were not enemies, but allies. They were not to be feared, but to be admired. They were not weak, but powerful. The conquered had been shown why the humans stayed silent. The work of preparing for war began, and the conquered, a proud and ancient civilization, found itself transformed. They studied the humans' military strategies and found them to be simple but effective. They learned from the humans' technology, finding ways to improve it. But most importantly, they learned from the humans themselves. They learned humility, restraint, and the importance of unity. Years passed, and the threat of the ancient entity drew closer. The stars began to flicker, the fabric of space-time began to warp. The entity's presence could now be felt, a cold, crushing weight on the galaxy. The time for preparation was over. The time for war had arrived. The humans' fleets gathered, not in vast numbers, but in coordinated precision. Their ships, though not the flashiest, were the most advanced. The humans had built weaponry and starships that could take on the ancient force. The conquered sent their fleets as well. At the conference, the human representative stepped forward, a holographic map of the coming war displayed behind him. "The enemy is coming," he announced. "We will fight together. We will prevail." He pointed to a specific location in space, a region of the galaxy that was now consumed by darkness. "That is where they will strike. We will meet them there." The plan was audacious, almost foolhardy. They would meet the ancient force head-on in the heart of its territory. A suicide mission. But the humans had calculated the odds, planned their actions. The plan was the only chance they had. As the Allied fleets prepared for battle, a wave of fear washed over them. Many would die. But the human representative once again addressed them. He had a speech ready, and it served as a reminder of the humans, the silent species that the Council had underestimated for centuries. "We are not here to fight for glory," he said, his voice ringing with conviction. "We are not here to seek vengeance. We are here to do what must be done. We have learned to fight in silence. The silent species have had to learn to fight in silence against a threat that knows no bounds. The silent ones have had to hide and wait, learn and prepare, and now, finally, we can fight. We will face this enemy together. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves. We will defend the future. This is the truth the silent ones know." And with those words, the human fleets launched towards the battlefield. The conquered, along with the other allied species, followed suit. The battle was a maelstrom of destruction, of chaos and death. Ships exploded, planets were shattered. The sky itself seemed to bleed. The humans' ships, with their coordinated precision, moved through the chaos, firing their weaponry. The conquered ships followed them, matching their strategy. The other allied species fought with equal intensity. The enemy's forces were monstrous, their weapons terrifying. But the Allied forces held their ground, pushing back against the tide of destruction. And then, in the midst of the battle, a surprise. A signal emerged from the chaos, a transmission from the human fleet. It was a call for retreat, for a regrouping. A massive surge of energy had erupted from the entity. The damage was too great. The Allied fleets, battered and bruised, withdrew. The lead speaker, watching from the bridge of her flagship, understood. The humans had done what they could. The silent species could not take on this monster forever. The fleet retreated and regrouped. They tended to their wounded and counted their losses. But after a week of intense scrutiny, the humans went back to the front lines. The humans did not give up. There were moments of fear and doubt, but the humans had learned to control their fears. They had been silent for generations, but now they were fighting for the very fabric of existence. The Allied fleets regrouped and once again prepared to meet the enemy. And as they did, they discovered a truth even more profound. The enemy, while powerful, was not invincible. It could be contained. The humans, the silent species, had built a containment field, a prison that would trap the ancient entity and prevent it from ever destroying the galaxy. The battle resumed with greater intensity. The Allied fleets fought with renewed vigor, knowing the fate of the galaxy depended on them. The human ships, leading the charge, moved with unparalleled skill and courage. They were the key to everything. The entity's forces fell back, drawing away from their territory as the Allied fleets pressed on. And as they did, the humans deployed their final weapon, the containment field, creating a force field that would imprison the ancient entity forever. The battle raged for what seemed like an eternity, but finally the containment field was activated. The ancient entity, caught in the trap, let out a final, agonizing cry, then disappeared from existence. The battle was over. The galaxy was safe. The Allied fleets gathered, celebrating their victory, but the victory was bittersweet. They had lost many, and they would never forget the sacrifices that had been made. The humans, the silent species, emerged from the battle and were seen as heroes, but they remained silent. They did not seek glory. They did not seek praise. The human representative stepped forward, his expression unchanged, as he had always been. "The enemy is gone," he said. "The galaxy is safe, but we must remain vigilant. We must remember that darkness will always seek to return. Our silence remains our strength." The human fleets departed, vanishing into the depths of space. The conquered, the other allied species, never saw them again. The humans had done their job. They had protected the galaxy, and then they disappeared. Years passed, and the galaxy slowly began to heal. New civilizations emerged, and the old ones found a new purpose. The conquered, forever changed by their experience, became a beacon of peace, of cooperation. They knew that there would be more threats. There would be more enemies, but they also knew that they were not alone. And then one day they received a message. It was a transmission from the humans, a message of gratitude, of peace, and a warning. "Darkness remains," it said. "We will always be watching, be ready." The message was accompanied by a single image, a star chart showing the location of a remote region of the galaxy. A new frontier, filled with uncharted planets and unimaginable possibilities. The humans were not done. They were already moving towards a new goal, towards a new threat. As the conquered looked towards the horizon, they knew that their journey had just begun. The universe was vast, filled with wonders and dangers beyond comprehension. But they were ready. They would embrace the future, armed with the knowledge they had gained, and with the memory of the silent species, the humans, who had shown them the true meaning of strength and the importance of unity. The war chamber, once a place of fear and uncertainty, now pulsed with a new energy, a new purpose. The holographic projection of the star chart, a symbol of the unknown, now represented a beacon of hope, a symbol of the future. The crystal walls, once silent observers of galactic politics, would now reflect the struggle to come, a testament to the quiet strength of the silent species and the universe they had sworn to protect. The conquered, along with all the other allied species, now understood the human silence and the strength that lay within it. They knew the humans had always known more than everyone else. The lead speaker gazed upon the star chart, a sense of grim determination etched upon her crystalline face. The humans had prepared the galaxy for war. They had shown the others the threat and how to fight against it. Now it was up to the conquered, the other allied species, to continue the work to safeguard the future. They knew that there would be more challenges, more threats, but they were ready. They knew that they were not alone, and they would continue the humans' work. And as the conquered prepared for the future, they finally understood why the humans stayed silent. The silence was not the absence of strength, but the essence of it.